Good evening, Purple family. Welcome to another episode of Shades of Purple, a Prince podcast. So, to start off, yes, I have not recorded anything since November of last year. And that's mostly because your girl has just been busy. I got a promotion at my job, and as they say, life be lifing. But today, on the 10th anniversary of Prince's passing, I knew that I was going to have to get out of my funk and do an episode. And I just want to send a shout out to those that have checked up on me and asked about the podcast. I really appreciate you guys so much, because sometimes I don't know, if people care so much about the podcast. I try to keep up the Facebook page as much as I can. And, and our community is constantly growing on that page. And also, I've kind of, let my YouTube channel go by the wayside too, just because, working two jobs is just kind of hard to try to prioritize certain things. But enough about all that. I wanted to do this episode because I wanted to reflect back, like all the other Purple family members today, on Prince's legacy and his life. And I have already told the story of where I was when I heard the news that he passed, but I'll go ahead and briefly, for those of you who haven't heard it, I'll go ahead and just briefly tell that story again before I get into kind of the meat of the conversation tonight. So when I was at work, basically. I was working at a public library at the time, and I was at the circulation desk, and I saw the headline from TMZ that he had passed. And I was genuinely shocked because I did know, of course, about the incident on the 15th, when he had that emergency stopover, and they had to land his plane in Moline, Illinois. And so I just believed that he was still kind of recovering from that, because I didn't know that he had like a party on the 16th, like the very next day after he returned home. And so I thought that he was still kind of on the mend. So when I saw the headline saying that he had passed, I was like, what? They just said he was sick. Like, I had like a mini freak out at the circulation desk, and I had to get up and go to my car. Like, I had to I mean, it's kind of like, when Michael Jackson died. Like, I did the same thing. I had to leave. I had to leave. I had to get out, because I was at work too when I found out about him. And it's the same situation. I was just so in shock. And I think Prince has hit me a little bit harder than Michael's, only because I've always been Team Prince. Don't get me wrong, I love Michael Jackson, and yes, I do plan to see the movie this weekend. But I was always a Prince girl at heart. And so when I said that he passed, I was just all I could do was cry. I called my fiance at the time. Well, no, I don't even think we were engaged yet. My boyfriend, now husband. We did get engaged and get married in 2016, so for me, 2016 was a bittersweet year. I got married in October, but we lost Prince in April, and for the rest of the year, like, it was just kind of like, wow, like a world without Prince. Like, what is this? Because I've been a Prince fan, once again, for those that don't know, since I was about 5 years old, when I first heard Bat Dance on, when I was at school on the playground at recess. And ever since then, I've been a fan. And so I did revisit my Prince journey about 6 years ago during the pandemic in 2020. And I started this podcast in 22. And so I just been going down the rabbit hole really ever since 2020 again. Just, revisiting. I can't tell you how many episodes of the podcast. So please check them out. I've done over 100 and some odd episodes. They're on Facebook. Well, not Facebook. I'm sorry. They're on YouTube. They're all on YouTube. That's where they're housed at. Shades of Purple, Prince podcast. And I will put the link, on the Facebook page again for those that want to follow the YouTube channel. I haven't got to the point where it's basically just a podcast just like this on YouTube. I don't have any like fleshed out videos and with images and voiceover. I don't have any of that yet. I'm still kind of working through that because my editing skills are absolutely horrible, and I haven't really been able to take the time to really learn how to edit correctly. So I'm still, I learned how to do like shorts and stuff about a year or two ago, and so I was really excited about that. I was using AI, of course, to help me with that, and so that was really easy to edit those. So I am learning a little bit more about editing. So just pray for your girl, and just hang in there with me. And for those of you who have, like I said, can continuously support me and the podcast and the page and the YouTube channel, I thank you so much. I could not keep going without you guys. So let's get into it. So Dr. Funkenberry on his Facebook page put out an article from the Star Tribune. Excuse me, the Star Tribune, which is a newspaper in Minnesota, and they did an article on April 16th, just a few days ago, just reviewing back, Prince a decade later. And the title of the article is "We Want More from Prince's Vault, but Here's Why We Can't Have It." And so I'm just going to give my opinion of this article. I have it right here in front of me. And then we're also going to talk about some of the major posthumous releases that the estate has put out since Prince's passing. So I'm just going to read a little bit of it. So it starts off, a decade after Prince's death, questions still swirl about the state of of his legacy. Many Prince admirers are frustrated that his estate has not done more to showcase unreleased work and cultivated a new generation of fans. Now, I think some of that is starting to change a little bit because we see, of course, Stranger Things introduced Prince to a new generation by putting Purple Rain and When Doves Cry in the last episodes of Stranger Things. And so I think that was a really good idea, but I know us. I know Prince fans, and I know some of the really old school ones would have been, probably just, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Prince would have hated it, da da da. And he probably would not have wanted that. I'll be honest with you. I don't think Prince ever wanted any of his music to be in commercials or movies, to my knowledge. Now, if he did say something contrary to that, please let me know in the comments. But as far as I know, he was not a fan. I mean, he didn't even want his stuff on YouTube. The only reason why we have all that music on YouTube now is because he is dead. So back when he was alive, because I remember like looking for Prince music on YouTube in 2015. And there was like hardly nothing. And the stuff that was there was like covers. And those covers were horrible. Like there was hardly anything on there that was Prince, because he actually went about and had people pull stuff off of YouTube for him. Matter of fact, I remember in an interview, Taika, I can't ever remember how to say her name. Rest in peace to her. She died on my birthday in 2024. Can y'all believe that? November 4th. But Tika said in her interview, I think it was the interview she did with Michael Dean on Podcast Juice, that one of her jobs was to go on YouTube and other platforms and report, any posting of his music. Because he was just like, look, YouTube is going to pay me. And he actually ended up suing YouTube, I want to say in either 2014 or 2015, for that purpose. Because, and also Spotify as well, because they were, trying to put his music on their platforms, and they wasn't trying to pay him what he wanted. And so he took that very, very serious. As we all know, in the 90s, after his dispute with Warner Brothers, even before his dispute with Warner Brothers, because of his dispute with Warner Brothers, however you want to say it, like he was a very, very protective of his work. And he always advocated for artists' rights. And he always lifted up other artists and tried to give them the game on how to get their masters and all that. So he was very serious when it comes to that. So I say all that to say, I still feel like the Prince estate was still well within their rights to do that. They decided to, because they've got to, and I've said this before in other episodes, the Prince estate has to care about the bottom line, which is money. Yes, they want to ensure that Prince's legacy continues many, many years into the future, but that requires money. And money can only be generated by doing things that will generate money, will generate revenue. And so I think it was a smart move by the estate But I'll talk a little bit later about some of the other things the estate has done that I don't agree with. But going back to this article. So, and this is by John Bream, and I've seen his name back when I used to do a lot of reading about Prince, which I kind of stopped doing so much reading on Prince because I've read a ton of books at this point. But John Bream is a name that often came up. So he's like almost like a Prince biographer, I think, at this point. He's covered Prince since the 80s. But anyway, so he says Prince deserves better. And he does. I agree. He was the complete rock star, rivaling Bob Dylan as the greatest music maker to come out of Minnesota. He became an international sensation with an unparalleled reputation as a concert performer. A decade after his death, not enough of Prince's legacy has emerged. A vast vault of unheard materials remains unreleased. Little is being done to introduce him to new generation of music lovers, and we already talked about that. I just think I read it again. I'm sorry. What has the estate done for Prince lately? Now, it's funny that he says that because there's a rumor. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but I'm sorry. I'm constantly getting off track, but I'm gonna get back on track. I promise. So there is a rumor that Prince actually wrote Janet Jackson's song, "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" and gave it to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and then they may have like switched up a couple of lyrics or something like that, but that most of that came from Prince. I don't know how true that is. That's just the rumor. I know when I can't remember if it was Jimmy or if it was Terry that was asked that, they said, "Oh, he wish." They kind of denied it or whatever. But I think just looking at some of those lyrics, it sounds like a Prince song. If you just look at the lyrics of "What Have You Done For Me Lately," it sounds like, to me, it sounds like a Prince song. But anyway, let's get back on track. So Prince's fans are disappointed and frustrated because his visibility is not growing to match his lofty stature. And so remember when I said earlier that Prince fans, some of them, especially the old school ones that they'll tell you they've been fans since 1978 or 76 or whatever. They are the main ones, I think, that are preventing new Prince fans because they're so picky about, how people, react to Prince or how people think about Prince or, just little anything. So like right now, there's probably a lot of people that are upset about, the whole, like I said, the whole Stranger Things thing. Or anything that comes up that they're just trying to make money. Duh! Yes, they're trying to make money. Do you want to keep the lights on at Paisley Park? Like some of the things they talk about online is just ridiculous. And yes, I get worked up about it because, okay, if you don't want to support the releases, you don't want to support Paisley Park, then, what will you support? Do you even like Prince? Like, it's just ridiculous. And so when I see that, I'm just like, okay, there are some Prince fans that are frustrated, but there are also some Prince fans that are responsible for this frustration. And so he goes on, "I do feel for Prince fans that his legacy has not been looked after," said Matthew Jeffrey of London, who this month published a 10,000-word open letter to the Prince estate on Substack. A much appreciated authorized 9-hour Netflix documentary by an Oscar-winning filmmaker was shelved in late 2024 after nearly 5 years in the making because the Prince estate objected to its tone and focus. So the Netflix documentary, and I've also talked about this in other episodes, I really felt like that was a misstep. That was a misstep that the estate did. I would have preferred for the documentary to come out. And just like with Michael, one of the things that's coming out about the movie is that Questlove, he said that it really showcased Michael's humanity. And I think that this Netflix documentary had the potential to do that for Prince, because a lot of times we look at Prince, we look at his music, we look at certain, aspects of his persona, but, not his humanity enough. And I know that there was a lot of controversy with, the whole Jill Jones incident about him, putting his hands on her and the incident. And then there was one thing that I did agree with this estate not liking, them posting those pictures of Prince dead. And of course those are all online, but I wouldn't have I would not want to see that in the documentary. And so that was the only like thing that they complained about that I do agree with. But I mean, I just felt like they could have negotiated that, you know. But I do hear. But I also read that the guy, the filmmaker guy, and I forget his. I think it's Ezra Elderman. I think was his name, Enderman or something like that. He didn't really want to negotiate too much on the editing part. So I think the talks, I guess, just fell down, or just never went anywhere. But now they're talking about they're going to do a documentary, and they're going to just take forever before they put it out. And I don't know if they're going to go back to Netflix or if they're going to go to like Hulu or another streaming service. But I'm really curious to see what type of documentary they're going to do. Because what I'm scared of is that they're going to like water stuff down and put Prince in this wonderful light, when we know when Prince was an asshole. I mean, many people said he was not the nicest person, depending on who you were and who you were to him. And so I don't think there's nothing wrong with just showcasing who he was. We all have skeletons in our closet. We're all not perfect. So I really think that the estate missed out on a golden opportunity, because the way I see it, okay, so the allegations that Jill Jones alleged about the abuse, and I when I say this, I'm not in any means condoning what happened, but I will say that she had a right to get her story out, and I hate that it wasn't allowed for her to talk about that where everyone would know about it, and then you could decide for yourself how you felt about it. Because it's bad enough that people, want to try to accuse him of being a pedophile in the same arena as R. Kelly because of how young Maite was when they first met. Even though Maite said that, they were not intimate until she was 19. It doesn't matter. People still, feel the way they feel about Prince, both inside and outside of the community. And there's not really a whole lot people can do about it. Everybody has an opinion, just like everybody has an asshole. So it is going to, it's going to be what it is on that. But getting back to the Netflix documentary, I just really wish that would have been put out, because I really do think that it had the opportunity or the possibility to, maybe even win awards, or, just really put more of Prince's humanity and his story out there. And I don't think it would have affected his legacy as much as the estate seemed to think, because I mean, if Michael Jackson could survive false allegations against him. Not saying that the allegations of abuse that Jill Jones made was false, but the allegations of child molestation against Michael Jackson were definitely false. But there's still a lot of people that believe it to this day. And I feel like if he can get past that, I think Prince would have been okay with any abuse allegations that came up with him. But, I understand the Prince estate just did not want to take the risk of Prince getting canceled. And so they just decided to, go separate ways with Netflix. So we'll see what they come up with. And so then he continues on. Then there was, of course, the Purple Rain musical, which I don't know how well that did. I know that it opened in last year in November of 2025. I think it had a few showings, and then that was it. You really didn't hear much else about it. But supposedly they're going to start the tour back up sometime this year, late this year or early next year. So I was really hoping that once they got it going in Minneapolis, that they would try to maybe go to some other venues, kind of like the MJ tour, which me and my husband went to just last month in March, and it was great. It came here to Little Rock, and it was a fun time. And so I was really hoping that at some point the Purple Rain musical would be just like that, and maybe it will be one day, once it catches on or whatever. And then he says there's no significantly new material has been released from Prince's vault since 2023's Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe, which is true. There hasn't been a Super Deluxe in 3 years, almost 3 years. And so now they teased doing an extended, notice they didn't say Super Deluxe, they said an extended Parade album that's supposed to come out sometime this year. I'm thinking probably in the fall, because the March 31st was the 40th 40th anniversary. So it's already passed. The anniversary for the album is already passed. So I'm just gonna assuming they're gonna do maybe release something in the fall, because that's been their MO, is to release vault music and super deluxe editions, box sets. They usually release all that stuff in the fall. So I'm thinking it'll be maybe September, October, something like that. But we'll see. So, and then, so going back to the article, he said, communicating has been a significant issue. And it has. Communication between the estate and the fans. There seems to be a disconnect. And for instance, in June 2025, at the annual Prince celebration gathering of fans in Twin Cities, McMillan, which is, I call him is LL McMillan, but I always call him LL, and his business partner, Charles Spicer, touted some upcoming major Prince projects, specifically a jukebox musical helmed by Oscar winner Ryan Coogler, as well as the estate's own documentary. Now that next flick is out of the picture. And yeah, we still haven't heard anything. I saw something about the jukebox documentary that Ryan Coogler, which of course he directed Sinners and Black Panther, is supposed to be coming out, but we hadn't heard any of that. But supposedly that's also supposed to be coming out in either 27 or 28. And then plans for the Prince celebration this year was supposed to be announced on March 25th, but they wasn't shared until April the 14th. So, and then there's also the staff at Paisley Park is not responsible, or empowered to make any type of decisions. And all the directions seem to be coming from McMillan, who stays in New York. And he does, things on behalf. So basically, there really isn't what you would call, well, I guess you could say LL is the Prince estate. The lawyer and his business partner, Charles Spicer, because anytime you hear the Prince estate, it's always one or two of them involved. But he'll be the first to say there really isn't an estate. But there is at the same time, if that makes sense. It doesn't. Let's move on. So McMillan has become the de facto spokesperson for all things Prince. And he says that the lack of activities and the lack of communication comes from them just taking over. Now, they took over in, they said in 2023 from the company that was running it before they got a hold to it. Before the first 3 years after Prince died, Paisley Park was being run by an organization called Graceland Holdings LLC, which was the same company that runs Graceland. So that company was running Paisley Park before McMillan and crew came in just 3 years ago. And he said that has a lot to do with the miscommunication, because they were, in transition for a couple of years. So he said that's where it's from. And, there's been a lot of, the estate going back and forth to court, both with the Hares and just other, just all this court stuff. Because like two of the older siblings, I think Sharon and Nora, they had they had sued Prince Legacy LLC, which was LL McMillan, because they kind of felt like they weren't doing enough to like push music, and they wanted to bring because a lot of the music that was in the vault is not at the vault anymore. It's in this place called Iron Mountain out in LA, because a lot of it needed to be, climate controlled, and they wanted to get it out of the vault because there was like water had somehow got into the vault and had actually damaged some of the material in there. So they ended up taking the majority of it out of the vault in Paisley Park and transporting it to Iron Mountain, which is which is a facility in California. And a lot of that stuff is there. So they sued or attempted to sue. I don't know what if it's ongoing or if it's been decided or whatever, but they sued to bring the music back to Paisley Park. And I know that sounds like the right thing to do, but I agree that it's better to have the stuff in the vault preserved, and then that way it can go on to be digitized correctly, than to have it like rotting away in the vault at Paisley Park. I could be wrong about that assumption, but that's after I kind of did some research into it. I think that I think that's what's going on with that. But so anyway, so what else does it say? Oh yeah, and so remember when Prince? They announced that Prince was going to be getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So Macmillan scotched those plans, as it says in this article, because and I kind of agree with this because Prince didn't ever want to be put on the floor, like having his star on the ground. And he even asked if they could put his star up like on the wall, which is what they did for Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali had requested that his star be put on a wall, and Hollywood Walk of Fame had said no. So I don't know if he's going to be getting a star on the Walk of Fame because of that. And I understand Macmillan wanting to honor Prince and kind of knowing, because now Macmillan worked with Prince for a long time. This is the same lawyer that helped him get out of his deal with Warner Brothers. So this is someone who knew Prince for 30 years or more. And so I really can I trust his instincts more than anybody else. And I'm not saying that I trust him 100% or that, that he's not out to make money for himself, because of course he is, But I think that with Macmillan, I can honestly say, I think that he, in his mind, at least, is trying to do the best that he can for Prince. Looking at what Prince would have wanted. I think he is trying to keep that in mind to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's about that dollar bill, yo. So he still got to, look out for Prince and his legacy, but also bring in the moolah. So I think it's kind of the best or worst of both worlds, so to speak. So, but going back to the article, so like going back to Stranger Things. So after the Stranger Things episode aired, it boosted his streams on Spotify 128% for just those two songs. So it's making an impact. And, these young Gen Z's reactors that are going on and like doing his whole catalog. Like I followed a couple of Gen Z reactors that are doing that. And they have genuinely become real Prince fans after going through his catalog album by album and just really like having that appreciation, for his music. So it's good to see. And so as long as stuff like that is continuing to go on, I think that we're going to be okay. I really do. But that's pretty much the whole article. And I'm trying to see, is there anything else I want to talk about? No, I think that's it. That's it. So the second thing and the last thing that I really want to talk about was looking at some of the major posthumous releases year by year. So in 2016, which was the year that Prince passed away, they put out Forever, the compilation, and it included the unreleased track Moonbeam Levels, which I love. I love Moonbeam Levels, and I think that it would have fit really perfectly on the 1999 album. And I don't know why he left it off, but I thought the compilation was good. I didn't go out of my way to buy it at that time, but I did listen to it on Spotify. I think it was on Spotify at the time. And I don't really have much else to say about it. I think it was a good first effort. And I will say this, they have consistently put out something every year since 2016. So I will give them that. There hasn't been a year that they haven't put out anything. So I'll give credit when credit is due on that part of it. So in 2017, they did the Purple Rain Deluxe. And I know people get tired of Purple Rain, but sometimes I get Purple Rained out too. Even though right now, when I'm done with this, I'm going to go find Purple Rain and watch it. But we have to understand that Purple Rain was his biggest album, whether we agree with that or not, And so they did a Purple Rain Deluxe. I did get that one. And it featured Electric Intercourse and Father's Song, two songs that I really, really liked listening to. In 2018, they did the Piano Microphone. In 1983, the Vault Studio album. It was a private solo rehearsal at Paisley Park. And I liked it. I love Prince playing the piano. One of my favorite albums is One Night Alone that came out in 2002. It's such a beautiful album, and I really liked this one too. And then also in 2018, they did an anthology, a digital compilation that had 37 tracks highlighting Prince's later era, so they had some other unreleased things come out then. In 2019, they had the originals, and I love the originals. They need to do an originals too. We are overdue for an originals too, y'all. And it had original demos, and I loved Gigolos Get Lonely too. And so this is a hot take, but I think that Prince's version of um, Gigolos Get Lonely too is better than Morris Day and the Time. I know there's going to be people that are going to disagree with that wholeheartedly, and you have the right to, just like I have the right to think Princess is better. So moving on, also in 2019, they did a 1999 Super Deluxe Edition that had 35 previously unreleased studio tracks and a 1982 live concert, which was, I think it was the one in Houston or Dallas, but it's also on YouTube too. They also had a Ultimate Rave box set that combined Rave Into the Joy Fantastic and Rave Into the Joy Fantastic, which, if I'm being honest, I really didn't care too much for those albums. There are some songs on there that I like, but I didn't really pay too much attention to that one. In 2020, we got the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe Edition, which I was super excited about. The New Year's Eve concert, which I'd already seen that before. A lot of the stuff that they put on these deluxe editions have been on YouTube for years, and I think that's something a lot of us already know. But anyway, so I enjoyed that one. I really liked the book that came with it as well. The Up All Night, I just recently got that one when we went to Paisley Park 2 years ago, me and my husband. I haven't really cracked it open, but I do have the Up All Night box set. 2021 was the first previously unreleased album, Welcome to America, which I absolutely loved. And it did really good on the charts. It got up to number 4, I think, on the Hot 100 albums charts at one point. It was originally recorded in 2010, but he just, put it on the shelf and he put out the album 2010 instead. And then in 2022, we had Prince and the Revolution Live, which was a remastered audio from the 1985 Syracuse concert that was recorded. And I don't think maybe the audio was better, but it seemed like they could have cleaned up the visual a little bit. Because it looked like it was like super old, and I thought they were gonna remaster. Okay, the audio is one thing, but y'all couldn't remaster the visuals too. So I will say that I was a little disappointed in that. But the live album is what it was, or maybe I'm tripping and thinking about something else. But anyway, I like the audio. I do remember that. And then in 2023, we have the Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe box set, 47 unreleased audio tracks and archival video footage. That was really nice. I still have that one. And then in 2024, the focus was really on the 20th anniversary of musicology. So I remember they had put out a couple of tracks, United States of Division, Silver Tongue, Magnificent, but they didn't put out like any super deluxe editions or anything like that. And then last year in 2025, they had the Sign of the Times concert film in theaters back in August, and me and my husband did go see it. And then they also put out Around the World in a Day Deluxe. It was a deluxe reissue, and I haven't got that one yet, but I plan to. And just this year, they put out the vinyl versions of Hit and Run Phase 1 and 2, and I haven't got those yet either. So that's really what it is. All of the major outputs, some of the reissues. Also, going back to 24, they also did the Vault Old Friends for Sale in vinyl, and what else? Yeah, and that's it. Nothing Compares to You. In 2018 they did, they put out the original studio track for that, and then that ended up being on the originals in 2019. And then they had the Versace Experience in 2019, which was the commercial release of the 1995 promo cassette that was during Paris Fashion Week. The models during that 1995 Versace fashion party or whatever, the models came out to these songs or whatever. So yeah, that's it. I really just want to say that, once again, I appreciate everything that the Princess State has tried to do in keeping with Prince's legacy. I just want them to do more and better in the future. So I'm really hoping that this extended parade album will be what it is. I really would prefer a super deluxe edition with a colored version of the Under the Cherry Moon movie, but that's not going to happen. So we'll just have to see what they come up with later in the fall, because I'm pretty sure that's when they're going to drop it. So I think I'm going to end it there, you guys. I thought about maybe going live, and I may still go live after I post this, but if I don't, I'll go live pretty soon. And as far as doing another episode, I promise that I'll try to put out one as soon as possible. I'm trying to think about different things that I haven't already talked about, because now I'm getting to the point. I've been doing this podcast now for 4 years. I'm slowly running out of things to talk about. So that's why I need you guys' suggestions. So let me know, what is it, something that you would like for me to research about Prince? And then, or if you want to come on here, I can invite you on and we can talk about Prince. So if you're interested in coming on the podcast, hey, just hit me up and let me know. And we can set up a date and time, and then I can send you a link to this podcast, and then we can just do it over the phone. Like, we don't even have to meet, so you could be living in another state and all that. So just let me know what you would like to do. So until then, you guys, peace and be wild, and may you live to see the dawn. Bye.